This is Between the Lines. Today, we dissect the road less traveled.
Hello again, this is Carol, and we are talking about the road less traveled and chapter 12 now, which is called balancing. And balancing, I don't know if you remember, we have been talking so far, and we continue talking about discipline, which is a great topic. And balancing is the last point of the four we talked about that was regarding discipline. So, discipline, we said, is a technique for coping with suffering. So we can grow and we can pass through this suffering, but in a more light way, or at least in a way that's useful for us, for our growth, for our learning, for our understanding, all those things. And discipline is composed by delaying gratification. We have talked about that. Acceptance of responsibility, dedication to truth, and now balancing, which is the last part of discipline. And what is balancing? Well, we have been given some tips and things about it during all the previous episodes, because we were talking, for example, we need to be disciplined, but how much? Because discipline is complicated and it entails suffering. And so how much should we suffer for something in order to learn? And so this is always a balance. Honesty, again, how much honesty we should have with other people in our relationships. To what extent we should be tell our truth. When we should refrain from telling the truth. If I'm in the matter of responsibility, is this case for me to take responsibility? How much responsibility should I take for the situation? More or less, it will depend. So everything that we're talking about has to be balanced. There has to be some point kind of in the middle, so we don't go to the extremes, and that's what balancing is about. So in everything we do in this discipline, we also require discipline for discipline, and that is balancing. And if we can balance, or we can get to a middle point, we could say, during these activities or techniques that we have been using for suffering, we can also achieve flexibility and adaptation. We don't get too rigid in our thoughts, in our behaviors, in our way of conducting life or leading life. So we can move and be more flexible. Sometimes we need to go in a certain direction and sometimes incline to the other one. And it is also part of the same thing, which is discipline and growth. Now, what happens when we try to balance these kind of things? And the doctor says that actually many psychologists and many doctors talk about this, which is in order to survive, we need to adapt. We need to be able to express ourselves. And it was really interesting because the doctor talks about anger, and remember, this was almost 50 years ago, and I think today it is, I don't know if more relevant, but it is still relevant that he talks about anger. And in our society, anger is, especially today, I would say, anger is something that is not really understood, or we tend to reject anger from our lives. And anger is just an emotion, and it's really a good one, because if you express in the right manner, again, in a balanced way, your anger, you can survive, because as a species, in order to survive, we need this anger. Of course, Again, it's not an uncontrolled anger, but the right expression of anger makes us move forward as a society, as people, as humanity, and everything. Without anger, we wouldn't move from our seats, from your sofa. You wouldn't be able to move out if you didn't use at least a little amount of anger, because anger gives you strength, physical strength. And well, I won't ramble so much about anger, and I want to make another episode about that, about emotions. As I've said many times, I will do it. And I think anger is especially super important nowadays. And what I've heard is that you have to control anger, but do you? I wouldn't say that the word control is the right one for this, but understanding your anger or this action, we could put it in the energy of action, and understanding yourself and forming your own judgment and your own criteria, that is when you can apply anger in the right way for you, for your life, and everything. I love anger. Well, I have come to good terms with anger. Because thanks to anger, I have been able to even survive in certain situations that I had to act. And if I had just stayed on fear, for example, I would have taken action in order to move out from situations that were complicated or were not the best for me or for my well-being, we could say. Yes. And so even though we tend to get away from anger, I think anger is really an emotion that needs expression and getting out and help us move forward. Especially if we're talking about growth, anger is really a good one to do so. Because you can say, okay, that's it, and I'm moving forward and I'm doing something else and channeling that anger into something good for our lives. And I think I can't emphasize it enough, because today we want to be happy all the time, and we want to be calm and in an state, but actually we forget that we have also available in ourselves this anger in order to move and to do something, to move forward. So don't discard just yet anger, because it's also part of your growth. So coming back to balancing, I wanted to make this parenthesis about anger, which I think it's really important, and seeing in the book now and say now today I think it's more relevant even than before. And anyways, balancing. And yes, balancing is complex. I don't want to get me wrong in the sense that anger is just fine and awesome. Not always. You have to find this balance. You have to understand when to act in a certain way, when to stop acting, or how to express correctly your anger in this case, or whatever it is, whatever feeling you have. And it's really difficult because you have to put effort again and practice and maybe fail sometimes, and it requires this discipline we have been talking about. So it's like a cycle. We practice, we discipline ourselves, we learn, we sometimes fail, and come back and do it all again. So it takes all your life, basically, because every time you're learning new things, you're getting new information, and you continue. So the cycle is forever until your death is forever ongoing. And that is why, even though this isn't mentioned in the book, I really absolutely love situational leadership, or sometimes situational problem solving will require from your part discipline to really understand what's going on, who are the people involved, and what are their actions right now in order for you to act upon that. And yes, it sounds like a lot of effort, and it is. That is why I think when you want to solve a problem and you say, okay, we have to assess everything before, and we have to, what we call right now in most organizations, like a discovery of this real situation, what's going on, and those kind of things, people tend to say, no, just give me the recipe, and I just want to get over with this, and just to be to move into another topic. But that's not that easy to do, because you have to work on that. You have to put your mind, your thought, and the effort in order for it to be solved. And this is also generally aggravated by the fact that our response systems are really complicated, because we also complicate these situations with anxiety, with insecurity, guilt, and those kind of things that every human has. And so things are even more complicated. And so it's really difficult to get to a balance. Then that is why we need discipline. We need to continue working on that, to understand more, get new information, updating our maps, honesty, and everything that we've been talking before. And even though when sometimes we put really lot of effort in this, and we want to solve this problem, we want to go to the core of the problem in order for it to be solved and understood and taken in, and take the right action for the moment. Sometimes happens that the problem can't be solved, or let's put it in this way. For example, the situation cannot change because there's some factor that is too rigid for it to change. So for example, in a relationship, maybe you have done everything you could with your partner or with your friend or whatever kind of, with your boss or your employee. You have tried everything, and now there's nothing else you can do. The other person won't change their position in their negotiation or in the conflict or wherever it is. There's no way for it to be solved. And that is when another type of balancing comes in, and it's knowing when to quit. Should I continue with this relationship in this situation, or should I move on and let it go? Or what should I do? And that's really painful. The doctor says that one of the most painful things that could happen to a person is quitting or have to let go of something. If the situation is irreversible or there's no way out, the wise thing to do, everyone says that, but it's difficult to do it, is just leave, just quit, just let them go, or just go away. And that is also something that is really, really difficult nowadays, I think, because everyone says we have like two ways of seeing the world. Many people say, no, you should continue, you have to work harder, you have to do it, go girl, go get it, come on, just do it, you can do it, you're not a quitter, and everything like that. And that's okay. In certain occasion it is. And there are other people, if you ask other people, or I don't know, I think I should continue because I don't know, and yada yada yada, and the other person said, no, just let go, leave it, that situation is not good for you. But this happens when people from the outside of our situation are seeing through their lenses this situation that we are in. For example, I had some cases when I remember once I took many times this has happened to me, but I remember one specifically when I decided to take a sabbatical year. So I quit my job at the time, and everybody was saying, almost everyone would say, "Oh no, you're crazy! You will die of hunger. You will have no money. You will not be able to pay for rent and those kind of things." And this was people talking about from their own perspective, from their own lenses, and from their own fears and situations. And nothing happens. Happened actually. I just went with the situation and I said, no, I want to take this sabbatical for me and I will do it. And I just had decided that after a lot of thought, of course, and doing numbers and those kind of things. But this happens when other people is looking through their own eyes, your situation. So all the time I say, you do you, and you have to put thought on your own things and decide when is the right time for you, or to quit, or to go on, or wherever it is that you want to do. Because these two extremes, some people say, no, just leave and go away and move, you're not a tree. I used to say that because I tend to do more of that, and I have found now through experience too that sometimes that's not the right move, or sometimes you just can't do that. You just can't move on because it's not physically possible sometimes, or mentally possible for others, or it's not the right time, or whatever that is. So these two extremes are really, really harmful if you just follow them blindly. And that is why we need balance. Maybe, for example, I've heard, and I used to say, some people say, I'm not happy with my job. In the past, I would say, just let it go, move to another thing, just quit your job, and then you will see. But for some people, that's crazy. And maybe some people need to take baby steps in order to accomplish something. And others are more risk avoidant than others. And so it's better if you just decide for yourself at all times. And in order to grow, you have to negotiate not only with, I think the most important negotiation that you can do is you have to also be true to yourself. You can negotiate with yourself and say, okay, or make a plan in order to change certain things and grow in your life. And that's something you only can do for yourself and with yourself. If you don't do that, if you don't want to change, if you don't want to quit or move forward or grow or whatever, it's perfectly okay. But if you really want to grow, as we say here, you have to go through that pain of making a decision and sticking to it, and going through this growth time. It's just like the same, like going through stages in life, right? Like, for example, a snake needs to change her skin, and a butterfly undergoes a lot of stages, and she doesn't say, oh no, I don't want to be a chrysalid right now, I don't feel like it. If she could decide that, she wouldn't become a butterfly, right? So yes, sometimes you have to quit certain behaviors in order for you to grow, and that will be painful because you have to maybe get or undertake new habits and become a different person than you were before. So you have to let die your old self in order for your new one to grow. And as the doctor says in all the book, if you are not growing, you are degrading, and you are getting into a degraded mental state in the long run. So your habits, your actions, your behaviors, your thoughts, everything, again, we are here to grow, so there should be at your service, and they should be all the time trying for you to update your maps, to help you go through that pain of growing and becoming a new self. And the doctor mentioned here in this chapter something about the relationship he had with his daughter. And he said, for example, once he was playing with her chess, and his daughter used to go to bed at a specific time at night, and at the same time he said maybe she's too rigid with the time she wants to go to bed, so I will ask her. And she said, Dad, please move your pieces more quickly, because I have to go to bed now. And he was trying for her to stay on the game, because he said she's too rigid by going to bed at this time, and I want to win this game. He wanted to win the game with her, the match, and so he made her stay and play together. But some time passed by, and so her daughter started to cry, and she went upstairs to sleep crying. So he thought at the time that, well, he was pissed at first, and then after some thought and those kind of things, he said, okay, I have to let myself die in the part that I want to win at all times, and I want to do the things at my own pace, and I want to do the things that I want to do and when I want to do them, and I have to let that go in order for having a better relationship with my daughter, because otherwise I don't know if I will be fully engaged with her, and maybe by having this nonsensical little fight, maybe she will be distant from, she will gain some distance from me if I also don't apply this flexibility in our relationship. So after some time he decided he had to let go his necessity or his need to win at all times. And that was a painful learning for him too. But he did it because he knew that this new behavior, these new ideas, this new self would help him have a better relationship with his daughter. So again, this is something that we, in order to grow, we do at all times. So even psychologists, psychiatrists, if they want to have a better life, they have to do it. And I think having this kind of balance or this understanding in this case, in knowing when to quit, again, it's complicated. It's not easy. Sorry, it's not easy to do that, but it will be good for us in the long run, hopefully, because when you practice and practice and practice this ability to not only quit but move forward and to take action and to use your anger in order to try something different, that capacity will help you become at more ease every time that you do it, right? Because that's practicing basically moving forward, taking action, taking action, taking action. And at taking action, you will be, every time you do that, you will be better at this, and even quicker, and even more efficient, and all the things that are good for our growth. So, well, that's the chapter number 12 here, and I hope you liked it. I hope you find this useful, and if you have some comment or want to share something about this topic, about this balancing, which is not easy again, is super welcome, and I really appreciate it. And also, if you want to invite me for a coffee, please do. I also appreciate it, really, really do. And see you in the next episode. Bye bye.
Stay tuned for Ulua's next episode.